the Second World War, Allied air crews suffered horrific losses where thousands of men failed to return from their missions. Those who were not killed and lucky enough to survive faced an uncertain future in enemy hands. This is the story of how POWs in captivity came up with an almost impossible escape plan. With everything stacked against it, the project should have never passed the planning stage, yet it was not only implemented, but it met its objectives under the most adverse of circumstances.
Group Captain Ramsey, in the past 4 years, the Reich has been forced to spend an enormous amount of time, energy, manpower, and equipment hunting down escaping prisoner of war officers.
Well, at least it's rather nice to know you're wanted, isn't it?
For us, it's not a matter for levity. There will be no escapes from this camp.
Colonel von Luger, it is the sworn duty of all officers to try to escape. If they can't, it is their sworn duty to cause the enemy to use an inordinate number of troops to guard them, and their sworn duty to harass the enemy to the best of their ability.
Yes, I know.
The maximum security camp, Stalag Luft III, was notorious as it was the holding place for the most active escape artists in the Third Reich. The Nazis had done everything possible to make the camp fully escape-proof. The POWs had lost or abandoned at least 50 tunnels in a 30-month time frame. This was partly due to the lack of governance. Escape was a private enterprise where sometimes one tunnel could bump into another. This was a dismal and unsatisfactory track record, and morale was low. The only positive was that through the many failed attempts, the POWs had honed their escape skills. The camp's geographic location in the heart of the Third Reich made escape nearly impossible, as it was situated a large distance away from any neutral countries. The camp was also located on sandy soil, so any sign of digging would be easily detected. The huts were built on stilts, and there were microphones buried beneath the camps to pick up any underground noise. RAF squadron leader Roger Bushel, former prisoner of the Gestapo, was nicknamed Big X. He began the formation of Prisoners' Escape Committee once he arrived at the camp. The Escape Committee provided a conceptual framework, a clear hierarchy, and can be thought of as a project management organization. They were an interest group who shared a desire for freedom. Their grand strategy was to break out 250 men.
You appointed me Big X. And it's my duty to harass, confound, and confuse the enemy to the best of my ability.
That's true.
And that's what I intend to do.
How?
By putting more men out of this perfect camp of theirs than have ever escaped before. Oh, not blitzing out 2 or 3 or a dozen, but 200, 300, scatter them all over Germany.
Do you think that's possible?
Well, the men are here to do it. The goons have put every escape artist in Germany in this camp. You said so yourself.
Big X set up a recruitment system where each POW was screened for their skill sets to determine where they could fit into the project. Once profiled for trades and skills, they were assigned to their roles. The Escape Committee defined the principal activities as tunnel engineering, sand removal and dispersal, preparing escapees with forged identities, adequate documents, disguises, clothes, cover stories, as well as rudimentary language capabilities.
We're going to devote our energies to sports and gardening, all the cultural pursuits as far as they're concerned. In fact, we're going to put the goons to sleep. Meanwhile, we dig.
Splendid.
Willie, you and Danny will be tunnel kings. Danny, you'll be in charge of traps, and I'll work out the exact location with you tomorrow.
Good.
Cedric, manufacturer. Griff, as I said, tailor. Nimmer and Hames, diversions. Mac, of course, will take care of intelligence. Henley, we haven't met. Scrounger?
Right.
Dennis, maps and surveys. Colin, you'll take your usual job. Eric, have you thought how you're going to get rid of this dirt?
Yes, I have. Usual places. Hadn't anticipated 3 tunnels, but we'll manage. Roger. Who's going to handle security for all this?
You are.
On the strategy level, it was decided that the efforts will focus on building 3 separate tunnels simultaneously, so that if one was to be discovered, that would still leave 2 alternative methods of escape. On the operative level, that meant engineering each tunnel. On the tactical level, there were 2 operations. One, procurement of necessary tools for building the tunnels, safeguarding and concealing entrances, as well as disposing of the sand. Second, there was procuring everything the escapees would need on the outside. A system of signals and decoys was put in place, and diversions were created to distract the Germans. On the techno-tactical level, there were relations with corrupt guards to trade for resources, as well as the process of forging identity papers and sewing disguises for potential escapees. It was said of Big X that he had a mind like a filing cabinet, and that was one of the reasons he was so brilliant at organization. Big X's type of leadership was participatory and democratic, as well as transformational. He knew that they had power in numbers and excellent human resources. By masterfully assigning duties, Big X formed the perfect structure for manifestation of the grand strategy. His leadership was situational and dependent on the environment he was in. He had a firm grasp on the fundamentals of effectively engaging with his followers and getting them to commit to the project despite the high risk and personal cost. He knew what impacted or hindered productivity and what stresses the team was affected by. As the mastermind behind the plot, he rallied and inspired men with his drive and determination. He declared to his followers, "Everyone here is living on borrowed time. By rights, we should all be dead. The only reason that God allowed us this extra ration of life is so we can make life hell for the Germans. 3 bloody deep, bloody long tunnels will be dug. Tom, Dick, and Harry. One will succeed." Limited time frame for execution of the plan, scarcity of resources, and constant threat of discovery were all taken into account by Big X. His vision was clear and audacious, and he trusted every man under his command to autonomously perform to the best of their abilities. The last part of the tunnel was completed on the scheduled night, March 24, 1944. However, with limited resources and the pressure of secrecy, there were bound to be miscalculations and black swan events. On the night of the escape, many things went wrong. There was a tunnel blackout and several tunnel collapses. In the final stages of the escape, it was discovered that the tunnel ultimately fell short of the woods by 15 feet. That put escapees into a direct line of fire, sabotaging their prospects.
20 feet short. You're 20 feet short of the woods. The hole is right here in the open. The guard is between us and the lights.
How could that happen? The survey took us a hell of difference does it make it happen?
Big X and the Escape Committee were able to initiate, plan, and execute a project that led to the breakout of 76 POWs. Bushell was among the first few to leave the tunnel. He successfully boarded a train at Sagan railway station. However, he was caught the next day just 500 miles from the camp. He was later murdered by members of the Gestapo, as were another 50 of the initial 76 escapees. Ultimately, only 3 soldiers made it all the way to freedom: a Dutchman and 2 Norwegians, all flyers with the British Royal Air Force. Nevertheless, the project met Big X's primary objective of causing massive disruption in the Third Reich. 70,000 troops and civilians were engaged in the search and roundup of escapees. The camp commandant was removed and threatened with court-martial. News of the escape reached the desk of Adolf Hitler, who was infuriated by the event. The escape was one of the most daring strategic pursuits in history and a testament to the strength, ingenuity, and perseverance of the Allied soldiers. Their legacy lives on and inspires many to this day.
We'd never have got as far as we did without you, Roger. For what it's worth, I think you did a damn good job. I think we all do.